What is a rumor?
It starts as a story. Maybe it's true, maybe not. But once you repeat it, it's hard to defeat it. Now look at the mess that you've got.
Alright, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Kiko Skimmertop on the microphone. Welcome back to the rumor mill, because it seems like we just can't escape the whispers about Injustice 3. For years, we've had breadcrumbs, little hints from data miners, fan stories from conventions. You know the drill. But recently, things went into overdrive. A major rumor started spreading that a Warner Bros. Artist straight up listed Injustice 3 on their public resume. This wasn't some cryptic article piece. This was a supposed project title. And it got a lot of people thinking this is the big one. A sign that NetherRealm is finally returning to the DC universe. So, is there any truth to it? Or is this just another case of the internet getting its hopes up? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who live on the rumor mill of fighting games, let's break it all down. So, let's talk about the piece of evidence that sent the community into a frenzy. A report from the outlet MP First claimed a WB Games artist updated their resume, possibly on a site like ArtStation, and listed their work history. The outlet shared a blurred screenshot, and right there, it supposedly listed not only a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, but also Injustice 3, TBD, and 2 other unannounced projects. Now, on the surface, that sounds huge. In game development, you don't typically see sequels to massive franchises listed by name on a public profile unless that project is real in some capacity. However, let's pump the brakes. This is where the story starts to fall apart. This resume has been widely questioned, and many now believe it was likely a hoax. No one has been able to independently verify it, and we've seen fake resumes and profiles pop up for unannounced games before. So, while it caused a massive stir, calling it a smoking gun is a huge stretch. It's more like a smoke machine that someone left on by mistake. Of course, that resume rumor didn't just appear out of nowhere. It landed on fertile ground because the community has been collecting whispers about this game for years. The biggest of these involved the voice actors. Last year, reports from a fan convention started making the rounds. A fan claimed to have spoken with George Newbern, the voice of Superman in the Injustice series, who allegedly said he was currently working on Injustice 3. Similar stories emerged about Phil Lamar, the voice of Green Lantern, supposedly telling fans the same thing. Now, it is absolutely critical to state that these are unverified fan reports. There's no recording. The actors have never acknowledged it, and one fan who made the claim later deleted their post and apologized, saying they misunderstood. For a long time, these were just hopeful rumors. The resume leak made them seem more credible for a minute, but now they just look like what they've always been. Unconfirmed chatter from a fan base that's desperate for a new game. This brings us to a fun fan theory, the leak as marketing strategy. If you followed NetherRealm for a while, you know that their games have a history of leaking before an official announcement. It happened with Mortal Kombat 11, and it definitely happened with Mortal Kombat 1, where data miners uncovered a huge chunk of the roster months ahead of time. Because this pattern is so consistent, a lot of fans believe these accidents are actually a calculated part of the hype cycle. They get the community talking and making videos, building a ton of organic excitement. So, when a rumor like the Injustice 3 resume pops up, it feels familiar, almost like it's part of a playbook. But while it's a fun theory to kick around, It's more likely that these leaks are the result of passionate data miners and the occasional security slip-up, not some grand marketing scheme. So, let's look at the big picture. Does a return to DC even make sense for NetherRealm right now? For years, the studio followed a predictable pattern. A Mortal Kombat game, then an Injustice game. They broke that rhythm by releasing Mortal Kombat 1 right after MK11. Ed Boon has explained this was due to a few factors, but he's also been clear that the door for Injustice is not closed. However, and this is the key part, he has also heavily implied, if not outright confirmed, that the studio is focused on a sequel to Mortal Kombat 1 next. While the support for MK1 is winding down, with new DLC characters and story content ending, all signs point toward the studio continuing in that universe. Given the mixed community reception to Mortal Kombat 1's monetization and content, it makes more sense for the studio to focus on nailing the next Mortal Kombat rather than suddenly pivoting back to DC. There is one more piece to this puzzle, and his name is James Gunn. As the co-CEO of DC Studios, Gunn is building a new unified DC universe across film, TV, and video games. He has publicly confirmed that he and his team have had discussions with both NetherRealm and Rocksteady about future DC game projects. He's also talked about wanting a cohesive story where games and films are connected. So, does Injustice 3 fit into that? Possibly, someday. But these conversations have been very general, with no specific games mentioned by name. It's clear that DC Studios is interested in working with NetherRealm, but there's nothing that directly ties these talks to an Injustice sequel being in active development right now. The focus seems to be aligning future projects with the new DCU, which could mean something entirely new. So, what does this all mean? When you look closely, the concrete evidence for Injustice 3 starts to crumble. The resume leak is almost certainly a hoax. The voice actor stories are unverified, and NetherRealm's own leadership seems focused on the future of Mortal Kombat. While we know DC and NetherRealm are talking, it doesn't mean Injustice 3 is right around the corner. This feels less like the beginning of a hype cycle and more like wishful thinking from a passionate community. But the community is certain on one thing: Injustice 3 definitely has to happen, and probably put the brakes on Mortal Kombat. It's been nearly a decade since Injustice 2, and maybe Injustice 3 has to be the next for NetherRealm Studios. But that brings me to you. What do you think about all these rumors? Were you convinced by the resume leak? Or have you been skeptical the whole time? And more importantly, whenever Injustice 3 does happen, what do you want to see? Which characters need to be on the roster? And which ending from Injustice 2 should be the real one? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. So, that's all the rumor mill news for now, and from me. So, thank you for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games. See y'all in the next one. Away!